Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. What I want to look at this time from Marvel Comics. Giant-sized annual number 2 of Alpha Flight. It's from 1987. So let's see what the Big Book of Knowledge has to say about Alpha Flight. This is Marvel Comics Alpha Flight Giant-Sized Annual Number 2, 1987. The story is The Fire Inside. It was written by Bill Mantlo, who I talked about not too long ago. He was that tragic story of him. He was became a public defender, and then was the victim of a hit-and-run accident, and he's with severe brain damage, and he's been in a healthcare facility ever since. And it was the art is by June Brigman and Bob McLeod. Alpha Flight is a fictional team of superheroes from Canada. And they first appeared in Uncanny X-Men, number 120 in 1979. They were created to serve as part of the backstory of Wolverine, who had been a member of Alpha Flight. And Alpha Flight had their own title running from 1983 to 94. And they are Canada's premier super team, akin to the Avengers. And Alpha Flight was created by Canadian writer-artist John Byrne. And it was very popular in the 80s, and he's the one who did the Superman reboot in the mid-80s. Because of Byrne's popularity, Marvel got him to write and draw their own title, which he did for the first 28 issues. After the initial run, ending in 94, there have been 3 short revivals of the title. Okay. Let us journey to the Great White North, and then on to the Great White South for adventure with Alpha Flight. And there you see the cover. It's a nice cover on Alpha Flight. Ooh, there's dinosaurs in it. And you just have the one character as a Vindicator from Alpha Flight on the cover. And I presume the interior artists did this cover illustration. And the penciler, at least breakdowns, but she probably didn't quite do complete pencils, but probably pretty close. That was June Brigman, and she was born in 1960. She's an American comic book artist, best known for co-creating the super family team Power Pack with writer Louise Simonson. And she was the artist on Brenda Starr Reporter newspaper strip from 95 to 2011. And she did she's been doing the Mary Worth strip since 2016. So she broke into comics in 1983 at AC Comics. And that got her on with DC Comics in 84. Then she moved on to Marvel, doing Power Pack. And for 7 years, she worked exclusively for Marvel. And in '94, she did a Supergirl miniseries at DC and a Dark Horse Star Wars miniseries. And then on to Brenda Starr, followed by doing some Carmen Sandiego work for National Geographic World magazine. And she did some book illustrations and graphic novels based on novels, some classic novels. And for a while, she was an instructor at the Joe Kubert School. So she's had a well-rounded career. So let's take a look inside the pages. This is since it's giant size, so there's about 4 to 6 more pages of story in here. And I'll try to cover them quickly because it makes it long. Well, here you can see why I said right off the bat going from the Great White North to the Great White South, because you see penguins and ice. That means Antarctica. Yes, it starts off in Antarctica. And at a Canadian scientific station down there, looking into some volcanism and geothermal energy resources. And you can see it's really nicely done. Nice, clean, solid line work, and realistic, minute detail. And the people are just talking, getting a little bit of character development there. And suddenly there's some shudder, like a quake. And see, oh, there's a rupture in the ground. Steam erupting from this fissure. Oh, incredible steam just melting the ice around them, and cracking this, and the ice station breaks off and slides into the water with one of their members still inside. So that's the end of him. And they're all just hanging on for dear life. And then up from the depths comes, what, cavemen? Dinosaurs? What? And they're assaulted and attacked by these cavemen. Whack, whack, whack. They grab the girl and take off, knocking the guys out. And there's an icebreaker down there, and they find the body of a pterosaur floating in there. And they're going to investigate. There's no sign of the station. Uh-oh. What's going to happen? There's a dead dinosaur next to this gaping hole in the ground. It's Allosaurus, I think. Maybe. But I would say a Tyrannosaur, because it's got 2 fingers. Allosaurus had 3 fingers. The Tyrannosaurus had 2 fingers. And, of course, they're not all Tyrannosaurus Rex. There were a variety of species of Tyrannosaurs, just that Rex was the largest and last. They find one of the men still barely alive. It goes, beware, beware. Now we get into it. And that was the prologue. Now we get into it. Alpha Flight, who is at this point, they're down to just 3 members. And they were contacted by the Canadian government and heading down there. And this ship, or this is one of their members. I had Box. He's robotic and can morph into a wide variety of mechanical devices. And this ship really reminds me of some of the ships from Defenders of the Earth. And they're heading way down south to check things out. There's Vindicator, Sasquatch, and Box. And there's Box's head in the cockpit, surrounded by the rest of him. And they have a flashback to how they got into this mess. And meanwhile, Vindicator is having a flashback within a flashback. Or it's a continued flashback about her. Because Vindicator was not originally a superhero. She was the wife of the original Vindicator, who was later known as Guardian, and who was the team leader for Alpha Flight. And he did all kinds of stuff. But he has died, and she has taken his place. And at this, as I said, at this point in time, these are the only 3 members of the team. And the others had worked under her husband. Now, I haven't spoken much about the artwork, but this is really, really nice visual storytelling and panel-to-panel continuity, so that you can easily see what's going on. Oh, stuff going on here. Volcano eruption. Stuff being spat out and causing all the dust and stuff in the atmosphere, causing electrical discharges, struck by lightning, and then there's these... they're being attacked by pterosaurs, and Vindicator gets out and flies on her own. But here's a little hint for futures. The really, really nice figure. Not overly exaggerated. Very nice, realistic female figure done here. And she gets out. Now, she has this suit. She has no innate powers. All her powers are derived from the suit. I mean, that is all her superpowers are derived from the suit. Able to distract the pterosaurs, but the ship is going down. Meanwhile, she is struck by lightning, which creates havoc with her suit. And she falls into the crevice, down, 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 into a jungle. Whoomp. Vindicator! Sasquatch. And he manages to hit. Box was knocked unconscious in the lightning. And Sasquatch is... able to bring it in for a somewhat safe landing, but then there's another dinosaur out there, and he's wanting to chomp on Sasquatch out there in the ice, and he's taking care of having a time keeping away from the jaws of that dinosaur. Box turns himself into a mechanical dinosaur, and he has a go at that dino and kills it. Ooh, it's too bad. Meanwhile, Vindicator is coming to in the jungle, and she goes, "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing here?" And then instantly assaulted by a very large, hungry constrictor snake. And this is one small flaw here, because here they show that the snake is clearly a constrictor, but also has venomous fangs. Those don't normally go together. And she's kind of instinctively tries to use the powers of her suit, even though she doesn't remember who she is or anything. But no go. So she has to fight the snake off, which she does, and she takes off in the jungle. Here's a Apatosaurus. Just kind of curious with her. Very, very nicely drawn. I mean, the line work and the detail in these critters. And of course, this is all before we realize that most dinosaurs, or at least most theropods, which is like the Allosaurus and Tyrannosaurus, had feathers. And then here's a Spinosaurus coming in and going after the Bronto. Da-da-da-da. And then, while she's still on the run, she's soon attacked by a saber-toothed cat. Oh, for crying out loud. And he winds up, while she gets away from him, he winds up going right into a pool, tar pit. That's what I was trying to think of. Tar pit. While she climbs up to safety, well, for crying out loud, she's grabbed by a caveman. Oh my gosh. Danger at every turn. But she manages, she swings around, gets the vine around his neck, and swings out and drops him into the tar pit. Oh, hopefully he can get out. Then she's on, and she finally finds a respite. Oh, no tears. Whoever I am, somehow I sense I am not a weeper. This may not be my world, but I'm stuck here. And I'll survive. Meanwhile, this is some days later. I had some repair work and stuff. On the surface, they're digging. Box has converted himself into a big old drill, and they're trying to drill through the ice, which is formed over the hole from the steam. The cold air and the steam flashed into ice. Meanwhile, Vindicator, she's kind of trimmed down her suit a little bit to be more comfortable in the hot interior, and made herself some weapons. And there she is, taking down an Archaeopteryx, because there's something to eat. And then she sees some tracks, human tracks, and follows them. There's a village with a pyramid. Oh my gosh! And they're all at this time. They're all remarking on the surface that this stuff, this is new, and they're totally surprised because at this time, Khazar's Savage Land had been destroyed. And what we find out in the context here is that this is a small remnant of the Savage Land, and it is under ice, but still kept warm. It's underground, yeah. Still kept warm on the inside, warm and lighted by the volcanoes, which is very similar to the way the Savage Land had always been, except that wasn't under ice. So here are these cavemen, and they got these. Well, they're not quite cavemen; they're less cavemen, more like Aztec or Incan equivalent, and they're bringing this guy up the temple going to sacrifice him, and they've got this pterosaur-looking woman and this rock-like guy here. Looks like they're going to be next, and he is rock-like, and he is encased, surrounded by a pool of lava. So she vaguely remembers some kind of team, but she doesn't know who she is, what's going on. And while looks like they're going to sacrifice them, she gets up here. Now here's a really nice nice realistic figure. The way she's standing and balancing on those pieces, those logs. It really took very realistic and very nicely rendered. The whole thing is very lovelily rendering, and she distracts them, lets the flying lady loose, and they swoop down and get the rock guy, and he distracts them with getting lava and setting huts afire. Meanwhile, the sacrifice is up there. He took advantage of the distraction, got himself loose, and they all take off together. Okay. Then, this is right after this happens. Box and Sasquatch get to that location. But she's gone. They can't track her suit because there seems to be no power in that suit. So they're just having to look around. And they're there. Hey, it was the lady who was stolen by the cavemen. Ooh, excuse me. There early on. And here's I remark here this because, and this is in contrast to the super beings who are unrealistic for the real world to begin with. But yet, these especially too, these really lovely renderings, very realistic, not exaggerated, just realistic figures of this lady, and it could have been of a man too. Like, especially notice these feet here and here. In these positions, feet are very hard to draw realistically like that, and June, she accomplishes it in just a very few lines. Very remarkable. And the whole drawing of these figures are exceedingly wonderful. In detail, I would suggest possibly from photo reference. Meanwhile, Vindicator and the people who she helped, they're taking up place in the jungle, and they spend time together. She starts to learn their language, and she begins training them on how to use their language, and they learn here. This has a flashback here to the destruction of the savage land, and this is one small place where people sought refuge, and animals sought refuge, because now she can understand their language and see what happened. And meanwhile, she's been teaching them to be a team. And there they're out hunting, scoping things around, and they see another tribe about to attack the tribe of these people. Something happened, and these people were had mutated after the destruction of the savage land, and they were being outcast and sacrificed by their own people. And here they see that their home village is about to be attacked by an enemy tribe while they're repairing the stockade which they had busted out of before. So they get down and they decide they're going to defend their own people against the enemies. The pterosaur lady, she's injured, and the rock guy, he is just going to town. Meanwhile, their Vindicator is being attacked, and she manages to muster up. Her suit has charged up enough power and come enough back online where she can have a brief plasma burst taking out the sky, and that was enough information, enough for them to zero in on the emissions of her suit. And so in the midst of the battle, just at the end of the battle, and she's starting to get flashbacks of her. She's knocked unconscious, and flashbacks of her life. She comes to. She's getting her memory back. They say what's going on, and just in time to save everybody. And she convinces her primitive people friends to stay with their own tribe, and use their powers to defend their own people. So Vindicator is okay, and the native people are okay, and off they go, head back home. I think it was a well written story. I liked the story. I just loved the artwork. Everything was so nicely done. Great figure work, great detail, and I couldn't see any flaws in the background. No obvious flaws in the background. The linear perspective, when it was used, sometimes more sharp detail than is necessary to tell the story. So that's what I've got for Alpha Flight. Thank you for joining me. And please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, remember, comics. Dino. Comics are art.